AI is pulling design deeper into the heart of product development and even earlier into product development. And instead of just being the nice to have cherry on top at the end, we're coming into the beginning in order to really create a good user experience. It's opened up this industry of crossovers, right?
On a high level, things change a lot, but I think like in practice, I just see a lot of like trends like about new job titles showing up. Let's say one of the ideas is like super popular design engineer. Design engineer is someone who can do both engineering and design. And of course, product design, we have been practicing that. So product design, of course, from the two words, product manager and the UX design. So I think like those are those new themes about like cross-domain.
Vibe coding has undoubtedly become mainstream, but how are design, engineering, and product teams working together and with AI? In this episode, we'll be unpacking how the practice of UX is changing, how collaborating is being redefined between PMs, designers, and engineers, and what all this means for companies who want to stay ahead in the AI era. In this episode, you'll hear from two veteran UX practitioners, Hailey Nevins and Wenbo Wang. Hailey is a seasoned design leader and is currently UX director at MongoDB. She and her team at Mongo are both using AI and work on AI features for their own products. Previously, she has shipped world-class products at Amazon and at leading-edge startups. Wenbo Wang is a 0-to-1 product designer and works with several fast-growing AI startups. He was the founding designer for several well-known products such as Databricks SQL, Cloudera Data Science Workbench, among others. Let's jump right into it.
I'm Hailey Nevins. I am the Director of UX Foundations at MongoDB. So I lead our design systems team, our design technology team, and our education design team. I also, on the side, advise a handful of startups.
Awesome. Wenbo.
Sure. Like I'm Wenbo Wang and a fractional / founding product designer at a few startups. Previous Databricks and Cloudera, have been doing product design in data and dev tools. Happy to be here and share and learn.
Yeah, you were my UX counterpart at Cloudera. We had a blast at that time. The topic of this decade, obviously, is vibe coding. And I'm so curious to hear what has vibe coding meant for user experience. Wenbo, do you want to start with what has this meant for you? Are you vibe coding yourself?
I am actually, but of course, like so primarily I'm working on vibe coding with my counterparts with PM, like Vidya you before. And so our primary goal is to do prototyping testing with customers. And while I was thinking about this, I think like the vibe coding concept, it actually has two possible personas. So the first persona is the engineers who, let's say, who are using Cursor or Windsurf or Cloud Code to really like do the coding, like hardcore coding, super technical. The other part is on the, let's say, on the Lovable or V0, they will be able to slap like a UI, which is the persona can be technical versus non-technical. So I'm definitely like, in my case, I'm leaning towards the latter. And but anyway, I think like those are all super useful tools.
You're saying you are on the more technical side of using vibe coding in your current role?
I'm on the latter side. I experimented on the technical side, which is using Cursor, etc. But mostly like have been like my job has been working with PM to do the prototypes, which is on the Lovable and V0.
Got it. And what about you, Hailey?
I'm in a similar boat, and I think that's kind of aligned with the best practices of using vibe coding right now, starting with the ideation with PM and even engineering to get aligned on the right idea and then test those ideas quickly with customers so that we can iterate and figure out what the product needs to be. I have jumped in a little bit onto the vibe coding end of the more technical side using Windsurf or Gemini, but I do ultimately lean on my engineering partners to do the code review at the end.
Got it. And it's so interesting, Hailey, you mentioned the word alignment in the context of using vibe coding tools. I don't know, as a former PM, this makes me a little uncomfortable because code is supposed to be in the solution domain. And this is why traditionally we've always had artifacts like some call it PRFAQ and some people think of these as PRDs, but it's a combination of these artifacts that help convey the higher order problem. And I'm sure on the UX side too, this is why we had jobs to be done framework and the user journey and things like that. Are we skipping those things now? Is that what I'm hearing?
I don't think we're skipping it as much as we're accelerating it. So I think we're still starting with a one-pager of alignment of what our goal is and what we're trying to achieve. But I think vibe coding allows us to condense the amount of time it used to take to figure out exactly what we're building. I mean, in the past, it used to take designers and PMs going rounds and rounds for weeks and weeks trying to align on the right thing and make sure everyone was on the same page just to then build something and deliver it to customers. Whereas today we can spend a day with the whole team, just talking through exactly what it is, iterating on that, getting alignment, and then going and testing it with customers and seeing if that's even right. So I think in a way, it actually brings more user research into the spectrum because we have more time to do it.
Interesting. And what has your experience been with that, Wenbo? I mean, you're obviously in a much smaller setup now, working with these startups. Have you, in your stream of work, have you forgone PRD, PRFAQ, and all that, jumped right into code?
I think like the solution domain is a super powerful tool. The time to value is great, like Hailey. But I think like the forgo, like the word is something we need to be super careful. Think about like the time to value. The other part is like, is this the right feature that we are or right feature or the right tools that we want to build? And what about the priorities? So what are we going to do now versus next release or maybe like next release? So I think in this regard, vibe coding, I completely agree with Hailey. Like it's super useful, but actually like everyone, like we are the lead engineer / lead designer when we are doing prompting, but we also need to be super aligned in terms of the goal or the product we want to ship.
I do agree with you. And I think that there is a separation in vibe coding, right? Like Wenbo was talking about earlier today. There's the beginning, which is more the user-friendly, lovable Figma make type of vibe coding where you're just trying to get a prototype together, but you're never actually intending to use that code for anything in production. And then there's the windsurf level of vibe coding, which is more on the engineering side where you're actually trying to build production code. So when I talk about the prototyping, I very much mean the former.
And it sounds like from what I'm hearing from you, there's also a step before that, which is where, there's discussion and there is at least deliberation around what is the problem we're trying to solve? Is it worth solving? All of that stuff. And again, Wenbo, you said forgo is a strong word, but we're still assuming all that's happening. And then once we've established that, okay, this is a problem we want to solve, then we start working through iterating through potential solutions using vibe coding from a prototyping standpoint. And then we get into the actual development. It's just that different tools are being used for different aspects of the kind of work here, sounds like. And based on your experience, what are some best practices you have seen? What is the role of PM versus UX versus developers? I mean, so it's to me, hearing how you framed all this makes it seem like nothing's really changed. But is that the case though? Or do you agree, disagree? How have things changed?
On a high level, things change a lot, but I think like in practice, I just see a lot of like trends like about new job titles showing up. Let's say one of the ideas is like super popular, like design engineer. Design engineer is someone who can do both engineering and design. And of course, product design, we have been practicing that. So product design, of course, from the two words, product manager and the UX design. So I think like those are those new themes about like cross-domain or cross like different technique and expertise. So that way, like we are, those new roles that can help us like to figure out what the user need, and then we can build it for the product. And of course, there are some happy stories or maybe bad incidents. But actually, I think Hailey, you're leading the design system team. I think like there is definitely like a lot of interesting process on your side, right?
I do think that things have changed quite a bit in some ways, and in some ways they have stayed the same. So like I said, I think it has increased velocity significantly. So in some cases, we do still have PM and design and engineering. We're just all moving a lot faster together as one unit in the same direction, as opposed to thinking we're all on the same page, but not necessarily being on the same page. But I also agree with Wenbo that it's opened up this industry of crossovers, right? So there has been an evolution of how do designers evolve with AI and make sure that it doesn't take our jobs. And so we become engineers, or we lean more into product, and we understand different aspects of what's happening. But I think that also makes us better partners when we are in a situation where it is design, product, and engineering, because we all have empathy and understanding of what the other one's doing. And so we can work together more cohesively.
This is really fascinating, and especially, terms such as design engineer, product design. I also heard
product engineer. Obviously, these tools have made the need for specialization less and less important. What is the role for a UX specialist, I suppose? I mean, you were all in your previous lives that's where you had started, right? And now we're seeing all these roles blend. Is there a role for a specialist?
In pure UX specialist?
Pure UX specialist.
It's still possible. Hailey, how do you think?
I think UX is one of those unique job families where it wasn't around always. And so most of the people that are in this industry, at least that are in the older generation, I should say, didn't necessarily study UX in college, right? Because that wasn't a degree at the time. So we all came from a product background or an engineering background or an art degree background. I was a video major, film and video major. Like we all came from different backgrounds and just evolved into this industry. And so we all already bring a different aspect to UX design. Some of us are more creative in the artsy side and we can do graphic design. Some of us lean more into user research. Some of us lean more into product. It just depends. So we're already that blend as it is. So I think we're in a unique spot where we can kind of adjust as needed. As far as if there's a true role for a UX specialist, possibly. I think in bigger companies, yes, because you're going to have more people working together in order to move forward. I think there's also a level of UX strategy that comes with all of this, right? The faster you can move forward and the faster you can produce products, you're building bigger products faster too. So you have to make sure that there's a cohesive experience that ties everything together and that we're not just building a hodgepodge of a product and shipping it.
Makes a lot of sense. And Wenbo, I think you have a good perspective on when is the right time to bring on a UX or a designer to a startup. Could you share some of your views on that?
Sure. I talked to a few founders, and so I think like the short answer is it depends. But of course, like allow me to add some colors to it. I think like it largely depending on the founders, like his or her skill set, and the goals, like what's the current needs. So hypothetically, let's say there's a founder who is really good in PM, product management, and maybe also can cover some part of the design side. I think like, so probably in this case, what he needs is me having like a fit and finish. And because he already has a critical user journey covered, in that case, he can probably wait a little bit to see like, of course, like Hailey mentioned, in UX design, we are very horizontally, it's a very, very wide spectrum of practice. So that can depend, and so pick whichever skills that the founder wants. But of course, on the other side, if the founder is on the engineering/technical side, probably like, I think it would be great to find like a product manager or a product designer if that person can can touch two domains. I think that would be also interesting. But all in all, I think like there's also like another recent trend I was seeing, like some founders were thinking like maybe we can just like me plus some design engineers, we can potentially also do, or maybe for deploying engineer, we can also do the job, which is also possible. But just from my personal take is if we do this without a rigorous UX like practitioner to help with it, so there will be some mishaps showing up in the UI, which may degrade like the user experience, which ultimately impact the product quality. But anyway, so short answer is depending on founder's needs and the founder's skill set, finding the building blocks that's best complement to the founder. So that's what I'm thinking of.
Makes a lot of sense, Wenbo. Moving on to the meat of this conversation, which is about UX for GenAI products. Now, both of you, Hailey and Wenbo, you both are working with products which have GenAI powering them. Curious to know how you have been approaching this, considering that GenAI is characterized by a lack of determinism. And what has that meant for how you have been doing your jobs? Hailey, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, so I advise for a SaaS product that helps business owners generate content like social media posts or blog posts. And so the challenge with that is making sure that GenAI's variability doesn't lead to things that are either off-brand or non-compliant, especially like if they're making FDA claims that are incorrect. So we solved that with layered guardrails that tightly scoped prompts and then compliance checks that enable them to be able to check early and often if something's happening. And then we also involve structured editing tools so that users can refine their outputs in a safe way and make sure that they're still not overstepping those guardrails. So in a way, that non-determinism becomes a strength because it adds personalization to what they're creating. But at the same time, we make sure that they're not going into a realm where they shouldn't be.
Very interesting. So you've taken the non-deterministic aspect and you're looking at making that a feature, if you will.
Yes, it's a feature, not a bug.
Yep, yep. Awesome. Wembo,
Yeah.
what is your experience? What are some products that you've been working on, and how are you dealing with the non-deterministic aspect of user experience?
Sure. Like, by the way, like there's so many happy coincidences between like me and Hailey. So yeah, I'm going to talk about it. So I currently like help with two companies. One of them is using GenAI for machine learning / data scientists. The other is like using GenAI for account executives and Copilot. I think like, yeah, like Hailey said, like, I think like this non-determinism, it is a feature. And of course, like one lesson I learned from like is like the guardrail is super important because for the AI Copilot tool that like I'm working for, like, so their selling point is instead of just regular note takers, so that tool is called Brevian that can ingest your complete proprietary, let's say, sales battle cards or white paper. And then like during the call, like they can, hey, maybe the customer asks some question, which AE, maybe that person knew, he doesn't know that answer, but this GenAI can pull up the answer and show it to the AE. So that way, like helps AE to help answer you the question on the fly. But of course, the hallucination is a massive problem, will be. And so that's why I think I particularly agree with Hailey about the guardrails. We want to help to, hey, like, do not hallucinate. We are also using some techniques, just using quote for quote, don't paraphrase, etc., to really help. And of course, like I also agree with the personalization because maybe the AE, hypothetically, I'm an AE, speak succinctly, and so yeah, we can also have that in the prompt to help the sales copilot to give the very succinct answer which fits the AE's like working style. I think, yeah. So I think like it's fascinating.
And I'm curious to hear, both of you mentioned about the importance of guardrails. Is this something that a specific function between product design and engineering someone tends to own, or is it very cross-functional? In your case, Wenbo, if you want to go for that.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, because Hailey just mentioned like UX is a very wide spectrum of like skills. Yeah, agree. Like I think like so in this case, I think every vertical, every function will chime in this regard, and because like the UX, people can come in from engineering or product or design or human-centered interaction. So everyone has a responsibility to do that. And I think it's particularly what's hard on us as designers, because like we want to make sure like the end-to-end user journey, it's really smooth. And of course, like the answer quality is super important. Another interesting example is the latency. Because hypothetically, a customer asks a question, but if we cannot get the answer to the AE's hand within 3 seconds, that's going to be like a problem. They will like have to they will have to do a lot of things like that. So I think those are all the potential hiccups or the like unhappy paths. As a designer, we need to be super skilled in helping us smoothing the user experience.
Absolutely. And along the same lines is the matter of evals, right? If a product doesn't have proper evals established up front, and granted there can be some room for adjustments as we go, but it can seem like you're chasing a moving goalpost. What, if any, role that you or in general UX have had to play in evals?
I was just like on the AE Sales Copilot, and I think evals, like, I think it's, of course, like I'm not an expert, but I think it's related to LLM observability. Personally, I think it's super important because like we want to see the answers quality, etc. And we don't have like a professional tool, like we are just like seeing like the massive table, like so we manually using some queries to categorize them. But anyway, we do pay a lot of attention to the summed down feedback from users. And because we are a startup, we don't have millions of rows, so that makes things easier. So I think like there was a story that, hey, like we found, we noticed like the summed down showed up in several occasions with a customer, and we were able to hunt down like the knowledge base we are ingesting. Maybe it's not working properly. Maybe there were too many calls, which caused some like unintended hallucination. And so I think so this is the evals is super important and can really help with the bottom line of the product. And but for the other machine learning tool, I think that one is pretty straightforward. Because the moment GenAI helps you help us build a machine learning model, we automatically put it into dev and we can see the outcome. So so this one's pretty straightforward, but I agree the eval is really important in the GenAI if we are trying to deliver compelling experience.
Yeah, and especially if customers have bad experiences, it can be horrible. Like y- it's more than just quality, right? I mean, they can have outright errors in what they expect to see in the product. So the feedback loop, I think, is something that you're mentioning here, Wenbo, as being super important. I'm curious to know, like, there is a lot of data that you can get beyond just thumbs up and thumbs down. There's also this observability based data that you mentioned. Is this a bit much? Like, how it seems like it's easy to get overwhelmed with all of this data. I'm curious, from a user experience standpoint, are you dealing at all with this big volume of data in terms of the feedback from the users? And
Oh,
either one of you, please feel free to jump in here.
Think that traditionally errors have very much been the system cannot compute, and so we need to feed some information back to the end user, right? But now we have to tackle things in a slightly different way and gather that information in a different way. So for the startup that I'm advising, especially, we add the ability for users to be able to edit or add notes. So you could say, I'm going to the zoo with my daughter, and the AI says, she's going to the zoo with Sarah. My daughter's name is not Sarah. So I can tell it, that's not my daughter's name, but also I don't want to tell you what my daughter's name is, so just don't name my daughter. And it can remember that over time and evolve with the user. So again, it becomes more of a personalization feature while also avoiding those errors in the future and avoiding hallucinations in the future. And then the second part is those compliance guardrails, right? Being able to block risky content, but also suggest what non-risky content looks like so that the user can move forward fast so that we don't interrupt that good user experience to where they're blocked and they don't know what to do. And then all of that feedback can get gathered and pulled back to the product team as a whole, engineering and design, in order for us to move forward and figure out how we need to adjust the experience in order to create an even more seamless experience.
And so what I'm hearing, Hailey, is that you are digesting all of this data together as a team, then between product design and engineering, and then processing it for different purposes. I suppose from your standpoint, you're trying to see how can we optimize the experience for the end user alongside the product team, and then perhaps engineering is also looking at other aspects such as scale and performance and aspects like that. Is that kind of what's happening here?
Yeah, I'd say that's correct. And I think that's also part of AI becoming a new thing and us all just trying to learn and as it builds itself. And so we're all trying to figure out how we need to adjust and how we need to work with each other. And inevitably, a lot of these changes won't just be a design change. It won't just be a data science change. It won't just be an engineering change or a product change. We all have to kind of talk things out together, discuss what the problem is, and then discuss how we should address that problem from legal standpoints and an experience standpoint. So I think we are all kind of in this together at the same time in the same conversation in order to figure out how to move forward.
Makes a lot of sense. We've spent quite a bit of time here talking about products through the lens of these products having a chat-like interface, which seems to be the predominant UX paradigm, at least, and as far as, September, it is in September 2025. So I feel like we are potentially at a point where we can talk about best practices, right? I guess as far as voice and video is concerned, we're probably not quite there yet. What can you share about this chatbot or chat-like UX paradigm? What are some things that have worked out well, and what are some things that are not so good?
Well, yeah, I think chat works great when it's open-ended, right? When you're just exploring ideas and you want to talk something out and you want to edit on those ideas. And so for that, it is a best practice in order to use chat. But I think it breaks down when you get into more structured things. And so we can get around this with inline editing and having the user interact with what's happening in order for the AI to learn and eventually get there, but also for the user to feel like they are more hands-on. So if you're designing a time entry product where you need to enter how many hours you worked at work, having a chat experience might seem great at the front, but at the same time, that is a legal thing that deals with money and your income. And so at the end of the day, you really need to be able to see that grid that shows me and confirms what I entered, what my actual time was, what my end output's going to be financially, and make sure and confirm that everything is right. I think we're still at a point with AI where we lightly trust it, but don't fully trust it. And so chat really can't solve everything.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Hailey. I loved how you mentioned that the chat interface is good for open-ended use cases. I personally have had that experience too, where it does feel good that I can ask the software whatever I want, but it starts wearing you out when you want the exact same thing and it's cookie cutter and still you have to type that whole thing. That's when you crave for that standard interface. It seems like there is a place for both. That's a great insight.
Massive plus one. I think agree chat it's probably the most super versatile form factor we can present in front of users. And also it's a timesheet entry table. I think so table by its nature, it's very structured data, and actually in terms of data density, it's really high. While chat, because they're trying to mimic our natural language, so there will be a lot of buffs, fluffs in it. So I think so if we can have having a switch from a chat to a table, well, I think experience or not necessarily a table can be other form which works best. I think that would be super ideal. And another part I previously mentioned, because we really pay attention to the user's feedback, especially some downs. So yeah, we did cognizantly put the sum down, making it accessible by the user. And I forgot to mention the outcome is, hey, so because the thumb down we noticed, we really need citations, which is citations like tables. It's another corroborative related collateral that can help with the claim in the chat. So I think that's super useful. Anyway, so I think chat is a great foundation and we can build things on top of it for different use cases.
Those are great points. And so beyond chat, though, obviously there are other modalities that we're using to interface with AI, voice, and increasingly also video. How is the nature of UX changing when you start layering on these additional kinds of AI into products?
Sure. So I think I'm going to use a sales example again. I think because they are naturally using voice, and actually voice to some extent, it can be transcribed to text, but of course with some latency. I think in those regards, we will stick to our product designer's playbook, which is really paying attention to the user journey and to see what we can do. In this case, we're helping users answering the questions. So that's the one value add. And actually, after the meeting finishes, we can also having the GenAI tool as, let's say, coaching partner. Say, hey, let's go over this from our past sales pitch or discovery experience from medpic level, which are the 3 improvements I can do. So I think there are lots of things we can do thanks to GenAI. And so yeah, I think time to value will be great. So I can see a lot of efficiency gains. So yeah, very optimistic for the future several years.
This is very interesting. I mean, this reminds me of the notion of human-centered design, right? This is how all this is supposed to be grounded in anyway, technology, the service of humans. So it sounds like all these additional modalities will really help us build more products that can feel more human, interact with us in as human a way as possible. That's very promising. We are heading to the final section of the conversation, and just curious, we've discussed a few very novel things that have been happening in the land of UX and product and engineering. Are there any hot takes, controversial takes that you both have?
I have a joke. Can I go for that?
Go for it.
All right. So, 2 years ago, GenAI can help us save 15 minutes by crafting an email. But now it can only save us 5 minutes because now we need to, they will give us a first draft. We need to edit the prompt, then edit again, etc. So of course, half joke. But anyway, I think my hot take is because the reason why the time saving from 15 to 5, it's not really it's going down because it's more capable of doing more things for us in this case, just for writing emails or producing machine learning models. So I think there may be some hiccups, but like I previously mentioned, GenAI is going and our agents will be super powerful.
Well, I mean, it is kind of thought-provoking because, yes, GenAI saved us 15 minutes if it was, when it was novel and we didn't have any way to easily generate an email. But now, so many different options out there. And also the benefit seems incremental. Hailey, do you have any for us?
Yeah, I think that there's a common misconception or idea out there that AI is coming for all of our jobs. I don't think that AI is replacing designers. I think it is killing the stereotype of designers as pixel pushers. I think anyone at this point can now generate a decent first draft, but only designers can turn it into experiences that are consistent, accessible, or scalable. So I think if anything, AI is pulling design deeper into the heart of product development and even earlier into product development. And instead of just being the nice to have cherry on top at the end, we're coming into the beginning in order to really create a good user experience.
I absolutely love that, Hailey. I guess it goes back to the aspect of people who have a lot of taste in how you build products or how you code. I mean, depending upon what job role you have or functional specialty you have, they are going to be more valuable, not less, especially when AI can spit so many things so fast at you. That's awesome. Okay, we've talked a lot about AI, and I can't wait to ask you both this final question, which is, where do you go to stay on top of things that are happening in this space?
Bo, do you want to go first?
Okay. By listening to your podcast and
My God, okay.
yeah, and I was also like using Hacker News, but of course I know Hacker News is mostly catering towards like the PM or Engg, which may not, or they're still like UX or product design, but probably not as many. But still, it's a super useful tool for me to learn about this. Like literally this morning, I just got to learn there's open source lovable alternative there. Like I can't wait to try it out.
What's it called?
It's called Open Lovable.
Open Lovable. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
We'll promote Open Lovable here. Hailey, what about you?
I have the benefit of working at MongoDB, where we have our UX team is about 75 people. And all of us are very focused on AI, not just how do we incorporate it into the product, given that Mongo is a great resource for building AI products, but also how do we use it into our daily lives in order to move forward faster, be more efficient, and raise the quality bar. And so we have AI channels, we have lunch and learns, we had an offsite where we all took 3 hours to actually test Lovable, V0, and Figma Make all against each other with the same prompts to see which one moved faster, which one produced better quality. So we're all working really hard to socialize what we're trying and how it's working out and how we can do better. So I'm benefited there, but also working with startups. I think every startup has a lot of really great ideas in the AI space right now. And they're all very interesting challenges where once you start digging deeper into them, you can go down some deep bunny holes where Stack Overflow and Reddit are very helpful in order to figure out how to get through this, how other people are solving the problem, or how you can address it in a unique way. So I think just the speed of AI has helped me learn more about AI because every time you run into a problem, you have to dig deeper.
Absolutely. I love how you're mixing both the digital and the real life sources to get all your learning from, Hailey. Well, this was an amazing conversation, Wenbo and Hailey. I can't wait to have this exact same conversation 2 years from now and see how much has changed. I have a feeling a lot would have changed, but let's see.
Totally.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.